Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to talk about the Smart tool a little bit more and fades, especially the fade dialog. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so we can enable the Smart tool by clicking this little border area around the edit tools, and you'll notice all of them highlight. Okay, just a little quick review of the Smart tool. If you're in the bottom half of a clip, it'll be the grabber, so you can drag things around. If you're on an edge, it will, well, an edge without a fade, it will become a trimmer tool. So each side will give you a trimmer. And if you're in the top, it'll be a selector. Okay, we can do a couple other things with the Smart tool. So one is fades. So I'm going to get my Smart tool up and running. And then in order to do a fade in or fade out, we go to the top corner of either end of the clip. And you'll notice this little square with like a shaded area shows up. So all we have to do is get that icon showing up in the top right or top left corner of the clip and click and drag, and we will get a fade. And then we can also get a crossfade if we have two adjacent clips. And for that one, we go, since we have the fade in, fade out at the top, we have the crossfade at the bottom. And you'll notice it'll have a little X in it in that little icon box. And then you can click and drag and you will get a fade in both directions, a mirrored fade there as a crossfade. So that's it for fades with the Smart tool. Super easy. So if I want to fade at the end of this guitar track right here, I have my Smart tool enabled. I go to the top right and then I can click and drag. I often switch with shortcuts to get between these three keys here. The other way to get the Smart tool enabled after you've done that, for instance, so I switch back and forth with shortcuts, but you might want a shortcut that just enables the Smart tool. And that is any two keys between F6 and F8, so function keys. So any two, there we go, at the same time. Cool. As far as fades go, there are also some default fade settings. So you'll notice this fade right now has a particular shape. We can get a couple of defaults set up if we want to. So how to do that, we go to Setup and then Preferences, and then we'll get that window open, that dialog. And then we go to the Editing tab. And then you have four choices here, these buttons. So we have a fade in default. So you can choose some of the things in here. If you want to set an S curve as your standard or a standard curve, you can do equal power, equal gain. So those will all, you can switch different shapes. And those will become the automatic fade in. If you want that, I'm just hitting cancel. You can set your fade out defaults as well. So maybe I want equal power on the way out, equal gain, an S curve on the way out. I can adjust those a little bit to actually get it to look like an S. So canceling that, crossfade as well. And there's my standard crossfade. And then REX crossfades we won't worry about. Cool, that's how to set the default fades in case you want to change what Pro Tools does automatically. My personal way of creating fades is not usually with the Smart tool. I usually select a section using the selector and then hit Command F or Control F on a Windows machine, and you get the crossfade dialog automatically. If I want the one for a fade out, I'll delete this one first. Then I just select a cross into space, Command F or Control F, and I get my fade dialog yet again. So really easy, and often you're doing a whole bunch of fades in a row. So it's really nice to use that Command F instead of a tool for it, at least in my case. I find it goes a lot faster that way. Now, once we're in the fade dialog, let's open up that fade. Here's a fade out dialog. So right now we're just seeing an audition. So we can hear this. And it gives us a little bit of pre-roll of the audio and then plays into the fade. And you heard it fade out, even though what we're seeing over here doesn't look like it's going to fade. It's previewing, we're auditioning the fade. And then you can try different kinds. You can switch to equal power and see what you get, which has a little bit more volume at the center of the fade. You can try an S curve, which speeds up or slows down towards the edges. So I can fade down suddenly and then it's kind of stable and then out. So we can audition that one. Here it comes. And out. And it's hard to tell, it's a pretty short fade. Typically, you want to trust your ear for these. So you can try different things, see what you like, and then trust your judgment. You can also click and drag inside this preview and adjust what you're going to get, right? So clicking and dragging on the standard or on the S-curve doesn't work on the other shapes because they're kind of presets, right? So we have all these preset curves that we can do. And then if we do standard or S-curve, we can adjust the shapes if we want to fine tune. So I'm going to duplicate this audio track real quick. All right. Okay, so now I have 2 tracks selected for a fade. When you do that, you get a couple of more options in the fade dialog. So one is just looking at the first track, just looking at the second track, or if it's stereo, it will be left channel, right channel, or you can see both. So since they're the same, they look basically the same, and you can see the fade that's going to happen on both tracks. So it's either track 1, track 2, and if you have more than 2 tracks, it's still going to just show you the first 2 tracks that are selected. And then if it's a stereo audio file, you will see an option to just see what's going on with the left channel or just see what's going on with the right channel. Then if it's a crossfade, so we have 2 tracks, so here's track 1. So if we do a crossfade across 2 tracks, we get the top track, so first track and then second ending spot. So left side and right side of the first track and then left side and right side of the second track. They look the same because they're a duplicate track right now. And then we have a bunch of options about what we see in this preview pane as well. So one is just seeing the fade curves. Another is seeing the fade curves at the same time as the preview audio separated for each track, if there are 2 tracks. Superimposed tracks, so the overall waveform that you end up with. And then you can also do the combined tracks. So this one, you can see them superimposed. This one, it's just the combined audio that's going to be your finished product. And then you can also use the plus and minus to change the size of your waveform in the preview. Doesn't do anything to the track itself. And if I just have 1 track selected, maybe it'll be clearer when I'm doing my crossfade. So here we go. Here's my crossfade on a single track. And right now, that's just the fade curve. Next one down shows left side, right side result, right? So one fades out while the other fades in. So this is the clip on the left and this is the clip on the right. And then here we have them superimposed, and here we have the resulting total. You can also audition by just hitting spacebar on these. And you saw it hopefully ride by that little playback head. So always a little bit of pre-roll before you hear it, and then you actually hear the audition of the crossfade. So with all of your fades, you will have a choice between the standard, the S-curve, and some preset curves, depending on what kind of fade it is, depending whether it's a fade in or a fade out or a crossfade. And this one gives a in shape when it's a crossfade and an out shape. So the way in and the way out can have separate curves if you want. And then if they're linked, they both change, right? So the link out in, so right now they're both set to equal power and they will be linked. So if I change the in shape, the out shape will change with it. And if I do the same with S-curve, we'll get an S-curve in and an S-curve out. If you don't want them to be linked, you can choose none in the link, and then you can choose separate shapes for each side. So, and then I can always click and drag in there to adjust it. Right, so I can do a standard on the way in and a S-curve on the way out if I want to, or I can do standard or one of the other preset curves if I want to. So you can totally adjust this, and just remember that your ear is really the final say in this. It's best to just, they're so easy to audition and check that it's mostly nice to just play and see which thing sounds the best to you. Right, your ear is the judge in the end. Just so you know though, the Pro Tools textbooks and things like that recommend equal power for crossfades between different types of material, so say like 2 different instruments or something, and then they recommend equal gain for an edit, say in a guitar clip, where it's actually the same guitar and guitar sound on both sides. They're almost exactly the same. Supposedly equal gain will be the most elegant, cleanest crossfade for editing. Okay, and then a quick thing about fade presets. So fade presets, you get 5 kind of automatic ones that are built in of different things that they just kind of suggest or have ready to go for you. You can also override these if you want to by just adjusting it or adjusting what you have there, making your own, and then you can create a new preset to overwrite that one by holding down Command or Control and clicking. And it will flash blue at you for a second. So you hold down Command and then hold down on the preset number that you want, and you can create a new preset and override the other one. All right, so that one's now there. You can also do it here in where it says factory default for presets. So you can do a save settings as. It'll bring up a dialog. You go like custom fade that you just created and put it where you want to put it. Maybe I'll just stick it in the session folder for now, hit OK. And then from then on, you'll always have that choice available. When you click that menu, you'll have your custom fade waiting for you. So 2 ways to save your favorite fades, one through the presets and one through a named preset here in the dropdown. Okay, editing fades after you've created them. So I'm going to make a fade out right here, Command F. I'm going to have my faded out dialog show up. I'm going to just leave all the defaults and hit OK. That's going to put a fade there. So some things that we can do with these once they're already created. So first one is double clicking with the grabber. So take the grabber. If you select once, you'll automatically get just the fade, right, with the grabber on the clip. So if you get the right spot, you will get just that clip. And if you want to adjust it, you can double click. Double clicking will give you the fade dialog for that fade again. And then you can make an adjustment and hit OK, and it will update. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to right click on it and then go down to fades. And then you can change the curve if you want to, or you can switch to equal power. Right, so you can do, so I'm going to go back to standard, and I'm going to go back to equal gain. So you can do that, which is really nice. Then once it's selected like this with the grabber, you can also cycle through some shapes by holding down Option and Control, and then using the arrows to cycle through different options. So I'm left and right arrowing right now. And on the Windows machines, it's Alt and Start and an arrow to cycle through all those fade shapes. So that's a nice easy way to do it too if you want to just check out a few that way outside without using the dialog. So if you want to use the Smart tool, you can actually position near the top corners and you can click and drag, and that will give you either a shortened, a trimmed fade if you want, or you can shorten the fade itself. So either top edge will do that. And then for a crossfade, you kind of just click over the middle. You'll see the crossfade symbol come up, and you can adjust that way too by clicking and dragging for the shape of your crossfade. If you want to delete a fade, you can always use the grabber to just highlight it and hit delete. You can also nudge fades with the plus and minus on the numeric keypad. You see that guy wiggling around there. Also, if you have multiple fades and you just want to start over, so say I've got a crossfade here, a fade out here, a fade out here, and a crossfade here. Maybe I just want to start over and get rid of all those fades at once. So I can select across all of them. I can go to the Edit menu, down to Fades, and then just hit Delete. It will leave the clips underlying the fades totally alone and just get rid of all the fades underneath my selection. So that's pretty easy to do too. And that's about it for fades for the day. Okay, see you in the next one.